It's the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show. It's me, Komal. I am so excited about today's live show. And I have to say, this is the very first time in the history of this live show where I'm actually doing it on my own at home without the support of my husband, because he's actually gone out tonight. It's the very first time since I've started the show where he's not been at home. And I've put the kids to bed, and I'm a little bit worried, I have to admit, that one of them might wake up in the middle of the show. So apologies in advance if that does happen, but fingers crossed that it doesn't. And that would be fun if it did, right? Thank you. If you are joining me live, do say hi in the comments. I really, really am excited about today's live show, because this is a conversation that I've been wanting to have on this show for a long time. Now, if you don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Komal. I am a former national level pharmacist turned career coach and business strategist for pharmacy professionals. I help pharmacy professionals to create and develop and find careers, roles, opportunities that they absolutely love. I am so passionate about pharmacists doing work that they absolutely love and feel fulfilled by, and being able to do so in a way that allows them to spend the time with their families, to be able to do the things that they want to do in their life and make an impact and a difference on other people. So today's show is no exception to any of that, because if you watch this show regularly, you will know that I have lots of amazing guests that come on. Hi, Janice. Nice to see you. And today's show is no exception to that. I have got my amazing friend and colleague, Sunil Kochhar, who is joining us today. If you don't know who Sunil is, then you will definitely get to know him today. He is a community pharmacist with over 20 years experience. He's a pharmacy business owner, but he's also an innovator. I think he's the true word for entrepreneur when it comes to pharmacy. He has developed his own clinics in his pharmacy, and I am really, really excited to have him on today. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on screen. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I am so happy to have you here.
Do you know, it's quite nervous being on this end, because usually I'm watching you interviewing other people. And it's quite nerve-wracking being here, but excellent stuff that you do. Thank you for doing
so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wanted to have this conversation because we have obviously been talking about independent prescribing pharmacists for a while. We've been working together for a while on that. And I really want you to share your story, your pharmacy story with us.
Oh, so the way it begins is me going into pharmacy school, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it at all until I actually became a community pharmacist. So a lot of people probably have a similar story. And I was working for a large multiple, became a manager quite quickly, but you found that you were working very hard, but not getting the rewards, but also your hands being tied, because I could see pharmacy in a different light. And this is why I bought my own pharmacy. And I bought that in 1998. And, pretty much within 6 months, we were opening clinics here. We were doing chiropody. We were doing, private health checks. And things worked really well. And we complain about funding today. And that's really what has started people becoming innovative. But what we needed to do was really establish a space in the healthcare professional space. And I think it's time we need to do that. And prescribing has really opened up a lot of gates for pharmacists, and that including me. Since being an independent prescriber, my practice has transformed. We did a lot of innovative services, but since being a prescriber, it just opens up things. From being a manager for a large multiple on the high street to owning my own pharmacy and delivering clinics that I enjoy, I love, and is actually doing a positive impact to my community.
Yeah. I mean, I think of you as being really somebody that I look up to in terms of how you've been able to embrace all of the changes that go on in community pharmacy, but really use those as opportunities for yourself. Tell me about your IP experience as a community pharmacist.
Yeah, so before we get to that, one thing that I do want people to understand is that I've gone through lots of mistakes. And what I want to teach is how to avoid those mistakes. Because going through 20 years of having your own practice, you learn things the difficult way. And now there's a lot of support, but we need greater support to push things forward. Where before I was doing things blindly, learning business, without reading books, without having coaching or mentoring or anything like that. And that's something that people need to do. And I learned quite late in my career. And when I did learn that and learned the impact that it has on me, it changed how I do things. Now, going through the prescribing course wasn't an easy thing to go through, especially as a community pharmacist owner. We have, you've got funding restrictions. So to take away time to go and do your course is one thing, being away from your own business. The second thing is also then having your 90 hours practice, where you then need to be 90 hours away from your business. And then also finding time to do your case studies, learning and, educating yourself. So I became a prescriber quite late in my career simply because of those barriers. And the other thing is that because of my age group, it was a long time since I actually went back to university to study. So there was this confidence, probably an inner self-confidence, in confidence about being able to educate myself and going through how to write a case study, how to do those things. But to be honest, once you're in there, it all comes back and you have to have discipline. Now, I call discipline something that I don't like to do, but I have to do and make time to do it. So you have to have discipline to get that done. But the whole process of understanding prescribing practice and to understand how the impact your prescribing can have on people's health and well-being changed quite a lot. And the key thing that I learned, which is a very simple thing, is listening to people. We in community pharmacy are just under so much stress, pressure, that we forget to listen to people. And because within minutes, we need to check a prescription, talk to a patient, deal with this, deal with the management side, we forget the core element of what we need to do, and that's listen to our patients. So prescribing taught me that discipline, is that to sit, listen to what people are saying, absorb it, and you save more time by doing that. And through listening to people, it really helped with how I changed my practice to what their needs were and how can I adapt my clinics to help them. So when the pandemic hit, it was the right time for me to be a prescriber because I had the ability to help people remotely. So remote consultations, and like we're doing, digital kind of interviews and virtual meetings, doing virtual consultations with my community was so satisfying because I was able to help them at a time where they were, concerned about their own health, their life, and with everything going on, losing loved ones and the heartache that everyone's going through, to be a core element in their household, not them coming to me, in their household and helping them and helping families, was just such a pleasure. And, I felt quite honored to do that for them.
That's so amazing that you were able to use your IP skills in that way. And to be honest, you filled, the key thing that you've just said there is listening, right? And I am a wholehearted believer in this, that, this is something that I use even in my coaching work, right? That, active listening is such an important part of us just connecting with another person, right? And you being able to have that ability to be able to support them at a time when they needed support from healthcare professionals and they struggled perhaps to get the GP appointment, or they struggled to find the support that they needed. But that's really where our skills as community pharmacists really come into play, don't they?
Yeah, and speaking about GP practices and how hard it is to get an appointment with GPs, and more the pressure is on community pharmacy. And I think this is where us as community pharmacists particularly, there's pharmacists in all different sectors, but specifically community pharmacy, we're not seen as the clinical arm of the healthcare professional. So with the prescribing work that we've done locally and involving the other pharmacy practices locally to kind of work within our PCN, we're trying to break those barriers. And without working together as a profession, without showcasing exactly what we do a lot of things closed and not announcing the good work that we do. Without showcasing this, we're not going to get the right place and the respect for what we do every day. Patients love us, but patients also get frustrated with us. And it's all down to what we said about listening. If we took time in community pharmacy, just because of the pressures we're going through, we don't have the time to do that. And funding is a whole separate element to give you that time, because you need your workforce behind you to keep you free. So my practice and what I'm trying to push out, and with yourself, with this whole dermatology course that we have going on this Sunday, is to give people independent earning away from the NHS so they can get their extra workforce, time for their patients, deliver quality gold standard services using their prescribing skills within a community pharmacy practice, and showcasing exactly what we can do as a profession is what we want to push out. And there's so much that we can do from community pharmacy practice, because we are at the end the heart of the community's health and well-being. No one can take that away. We own that space. We just need to showcase that space.
Yeah, you are so right about us showcasing in that space, right? I always talk about the fact that innovation starts from the bottom up, right? You're on PSNC, right? You've sat on the LPCs. You've been working at both regional and national level, right, for community pharmacy. But we all know that, at those levels, there are restrictions. There are things that we can't necessarily affect. But by showcasing what we can do on the ground, which is exactly what you've done, we're showing others that we are clinicians, that we can support the healthcare of the public in a way that they need us to, right? And the IP clinics that you've been able to set up, talk about those, because I know you've done a number of different ones, right? So let's talk about the ones that haven't gone so well, and why haven't they gone so well, Sunil?
There's a whole history of services that haven't gone well and have gone well. And it's more about having processes in place, planning things, rather than trying to do everything all at once. So what I've learned in the last, decade or 5 years is do something really well and focus on that. Once it's an established part of your day-to-day basis, then move on to something else. The worst thing I did was try and do everything, and that's when things didn't go well. And I'll give you an example. We belong to a buying group called Alfiga, who launched a whole mole scanning, service, and we were known for delivering services. So when Alfiga came out and we had the mole scanning service at the start, because we were doing so much, we knew it was an important role for community pharmacy to play, a very crucial service for the community, but yet we didn't get much engagement. And there were comments like, oh, Sunil's known as the service person, can't even deliver this and that. And that really, really rattled me up, because yes, when we put a service together, we try and focus on it and deliver it. But after planning, going from having 1 or 2 people every other month coming in for mole scanning, we planned as a team, and this is important. You work as a pharmacy team. Just because you own the pharmacy doesn't mean you're delivering it on your own. You're delivering it with your whole team. So you need to sit down, map things out with your team, and deliver it in a stage by stage. The team need to understand how you're going to market it, how do you deliver it, how do you simplify the delivery, and then deliver it. So then the next year, we literally went from nothing, and we did an event day, and we did 50 of those mole scanning services in one single day. And we actually caught 2 people who had sinister cancerous skin issues. And we saved a life, and we won the local paper. So that's how, by planning it and doing things properly, you actually make a success out of something. And it's the foundation that we then based along that. And that was the growth of us then transforming our clinic to a dermatology clinic, where we work remotely with a dermatologist. We use a dermatoscope. So I will do what I can in my scope as a prescriber. Anything beyond my scope, those images go to the remote dermatologist, who sends a medical report, not just to me, but to the patient and the GP practice. Because at the end of the day, the GP practice is that patient's single point of all their healthcare. So, we have to have respect for all healthcare professionals, and GPs have a big role to play in people's health. What I find some pharmacists do is try and fight against that. And, we have our own individual speciality, but we have our own way of caring for the same patient. And this is, again, it's not their patient, our patient. We're dealing with the same patient. So we have to merge the things together. So you have to have things in place to make sure the GP is connected, the patient's connected, and you're connected. So every party understands what's happening. But the journey is that, things haven't gone well when you don't plan things properly and you don't do it properly. But you learn from that. And again, what we're about and what we're trying to do on Sunday is show all those mistakes that I've made over 20 years is how can you do this now as a gold standard. And we have now people coming in daily for dermatology issues. And it's a separate business. In fact, it's a separate line where now I'm having to dedicate a complete day just for appointments for dermatology. So that's how we've transformed. And people can do this, pharmacists can do this, and we can teach them how to do it without going through all those hurdles, how to plan it, how to focus, how to market it. And the other thing about listening is that when people come into our practice, we listen to what they want. And then we see, if we're signposting people to certain services, is this something that we can deliver? Then we talk as a team and say, how many times have people asked you about this service? Is it something we can deliver? Then let's put it in. Yeah. So it's about listening to what your community needs. So, dermatology and the things we do here may not be the same as another place, because it could be something else. You could have day in, day out people asking about menopause or incontinence. But these are separate clinics that you can create yourself by listening, do the education, and having the coaching and mentoring to deliver it. So the whole point that I'm trying to make is that something's only a success if you plan it and do it with your team.
Yeah. Something's only a success if you plan it and you do it with your team, 100%. And also, the other key learning from what you've just said is listening to your community and understanding what it is that they need, right? I think we can fall into this trap of there's all these different services and they all sound amazing and they could all be really beneficial in my community, but without really listening to what your community needs and what their specific problems and pain points are, it's going to be very difficult for you to set up a clinic that's going to be successful, right? And so that very first piece of the puzzle is doing that listening, right? And really understanding, okay, what is it that my customers need? And like you said, utilizing the knowledge of your team to be able to understand what that is, right? So, listening to what your team are saying and then asking the question, like you did of your team, is this something we can deliver?
The other thing is also with your team, and I found this not just with other healthcare professionals or pharma companies, even with my team at the start, they did not understand what is a community pharmacist prescriber. What can they do? But now it's completely different, because the team, I've sat down with the team explaining exactly what a community pharmacist prescriber is. What our remits are, about the scopes we can do, how we get the training, but also they've seen it physically, how we've helped so many people. So I don't need to market now that I'm a prescriber. My team does it. Yeah. So when people come in, it's not what's on the shelf, it's how can Sunil help this, this patient further. So they're completely embraced, and this is my team are saying, why don't other community pharmacists deliver the same as what we do? And I said it will happen, and by 2024, 26, we'll have prescribers coming out as pharmacist prescribers. That is something that's going to change the future. And what I want to encourage here, if I can, using your portal, is any community pharmacist who isn't a prescriber, please get on that course, because that is the future. I took a long time only because of certain restrictions and hindrances that I had, but break those barriers. And if they need any help, I'm happy for them to message me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help them, guide them through the journey that I went through to help them get there.
Such great advice, Sunil, about, if you're not on an IP now, you're a community pharmacist, get on it, right? Janice has said we need to make sure we aren't doing things to patients. We need to be engaging with them and identifying what they need. And spot on, Janice, right? That's exactly what we're talking about here. In terms of, your dermatology clinic that you've been able to set up. I mean, now, like you said, you've reached a stage where you don't even need to do any marketing. Your staff they know when to recommend you. They know when to refer the patients to you, right? And, you've overcome all those barriers, those perceived barriers, right? Because, we've been working with a group of community pharmacists for the last 6 months, right, to support them with developing their dermatology clinics, right? And the key thing that's come out of that is the fact that most pharmacists, they lack the confidence to be able to have these conversations with their customers, right, and with their patients.
Well, I'm just going to pause you on that. It's not a lack of confidence, because I've been there, and it's more about what have I got to offer this person that's come in and asked this question. Because going back many years ago, if I hadn't broken certain barriers, I was at the stage early on saying, I'll go out there, all I'll be saying is you need to see your GP. Yeah. And that's one thing. So we need to break that barrier. And the way we break it is to be able to offer, as a minor illness clinic, right in the heart of the high street and, the community, through community pharmacy, we're the ideal place for it. There are patients out there who will fund themselves. So it's what I call patient-funded services. And where Janice is saying we need to listen to what the community wants, and that's how we adapt things here in our practice. I'll give you a good example. We have a successful podiatry clinic, and it happens on 2 days a week. And but it became so popular that people in other days needed their warts, verrucas, and things, what we call cryotherapy done. So I then trained in cryotherapy. We deliver that. So people came in and we'd prefer them to book in with the chiropodist, because then that means I've got clinics going and I can still look after other things. But if people came ad hoc, different times, Saturdays, whatever it is, then I'm trained and I do cryotherapy. But the clinic has developed quite well. And from that, I've become a trainer of cryotherapy. So we've just done the accreditation. We have a medical accreditation for community pharmacists to deliver cryotherapy in community pharmacy practice. So if anyone's interested, message me. We will put that to you. But the dermatology part comes in first, then the cryotherapy. And this is what we're trying to get people to understand is on the 26th, we're going to show them how to set up a dermatology clinic. But that's just the start.
Yeah.
If you do that clinic well, then you will need cryotherapy, because people will have certain lesions, certain things that you need to do the treatment on. Okay, it's fine, you've done the diagnosis, you may prescribe a steroid cream or something, but then there'll be some places where then you'll need to do the cryotherapy. So why not do it in your practice? Why don't you focus on dermatology, make that your niche in that community that you're in, make that the one thing you're really good at, and you'll find your staff the community will self-refer.
Yeah, and we've seen that on the mastermind, right?
Yeah,
we saw that with one of the guys on our mastermind. You know, he's now become the skincare expert in his community, and everyone knows him as the skincare expert in his community. So much so that he's now getting so much work coming to him that he's now saying, I need to employ a locum to cover some days in my pharmacy so I can focus on my dermatology work, you know. And that's what can happen, right? If you commit to setting up your clinic and going all in on delivering it, right?
Yeah, and if he's listening, I'm very proud of you. He's done so well. And so you know, from being hidden in the dispensary with our coaching and mentoring and pushing him, you know, out of the dispensary, clearing the consultation room and delivering these clinics, and it's from nothing to becoming the skin pharmacist. It is amazing. So yes, you know, this is how we can transform. And you know, one of the guys in our mastermind and other pharmacists have said, checking prescriptions and doing that, you know, they feel like they're working in McDonald's where they're just bagging items in a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, we talk in our mentoring coaching about the work-life balance, and this is what people need to understand. There's a certain baseline we have to do. You know, it's like working retail. You have to stack shelves. You have to do date checking. There's certain things that you have to do. But if you think of that as your baseline and you do beyond that and you schedule things in a certain way where you can have that time, you can deliver these clinics. And if it's now becoming mainstream of your community pharmacy practice, like this guy we know who's become the skin pharmacist, who now needs a pharmacist to do the baseline work so he can do this, is amazing.
Yeah.
So we're actually encouraging 2 pharmacists to be in an independent community pharmacy practice.
Yeah.
And can afford it because of the extra income coming in.
Yeah, so totally.
That's a complete win-win-win.
Yeah, and you know, this is what is so amazing about creating your own clinics, because this is an adjunct, right? This is not you saying, okay, I'm just going to completely replace my NHS income, because we know that that's not possible. We know that there's a certain baseline activity that needs to happen in our pharmacy, right? But what we're saying is you start offering these adjunct services, these private services to a community, and actually you will be able to get the freedom to be able to have another pharmacist in your pharmacy. They can be offering clinics too, right? You can both be offering clinics within your pharmacy, and it's a win-win for everyone, because as you said, no one likes doing the dispensing, right? No one likes doing the checking of those prescriptions, right?
But let's remember that is a very important role that we play.
Yeah.
The clinical checks that we do, the accuracy checking we do, making sure patient safety is the highest, is such important work. But because we do it day in, day out, we don't realize how important it is, and we think of it as mundane work. It's about balancing this work life. Yeah. So to have the enjoyment in both parts, and imagine enjoying your mundane work as well as your enhanced clinical work, is because that's what I do now, is that I can balance the two and enjoy both, and knowing the good I'm doing for my community. And that mundane work, I do want to tell all the pharmacists out there, especially locums in the newer generation, that is crucial, important work that you're doing. You're saving lives, stopping errors, making sure things are done properly for your patient. But by understanding, you know, when you're doing the checking, what the needs are, whether they're diabetic, whatever it is, and then helping them further, it is such great enjoyment. And the good thing that I really love about community pharmacy practice is you've got the NHS arm. Oh, where's the camera there? And the private arm, but you can merge it together to deliver it together to the same patient.
Yeah.
And the best thing about having a community pharmacy practice with this mundane work that we're calling it is that people are entering your premises.
Yeah.
It's not how you transform their health. Is it just by handing a bag? Is it handing a bag, having a conversation and listening to what they need? Is it handing a bag, having a conversation, listening to what they want, turning it into a consultation and delivering a service that's benefited them, but commercially has benefited your practice?
Yeah.
And that is the golden moment when you have all that inflow and you enjoy every single element. You're in a career that you love and is in a career that is going to thrive. And again, I want to say, to become a prescriber, because it changes that you can deliver every single part of that element.
Yeah. And that to me is the most amazing opportunity with becoming an IP, right? That you're getting to see it through for a patient, right?
But there's a big difference, and until you do clinic work, you don't realize the enjoyment and the difference it is with having one-to-ones with your patients.
Yeah.
And then seeing positive outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I deliver a hair loss clinic, and I train prescribers and injectors on how to deliver hair loss clinics. And I'm transforming people's confidence. Their personalities change because they've become a different person. Because of their hair thinning, their hair loss, they've lost confidence, they're not social anymore. I've transformed those people, and I'm teaching prescribers to be certified to do the same. And without being a prescriber, I would have never, ever become in this position. So prescribing has opened lots of doors. And, pandemic has been really bad for everyone's lives. But the pandemic has transformed community pharmacy practice a decade.
Yeah.
We showcased how crucial we were to the community, to the nation. Yeah, despite, and politically, I'm going to keep the politics on its side.
Yeah.
But politically, we weren't appreciated in the funding, but patients absolutely knew what we were delivering. And without us, imagine all those people would be without medication, without any contact. The amount of what I call invisible mental health patients, the ones who were stable, who needed regular clockwork things to keep them stable. Suddenly COVID came in, made them unstable, and the only person they could talk to was their local community pharmacy team.
Yeah.
We saw that, day in, day out, and there's going to be a tsunami of health issues coming up.
Yeah.
And who's going to be there mopping it up for free again is community pharmacy.
Yeah.
But we need to develop independent earning away from the NHS. Still have the NHS arm, but we need to work towards having the NHS income as just a side stream, where the main income is coming from your private services, because your community want it and your community will pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. And we've seen that happening through, the mastermind that we ran, right? So we've got some really good comments from Janice. I really appreciate you watching, Janice, and leaving your comments here. So Janice has said, Sunil is a great ambassador for prescribing, showcasing how skills can be used to make a real difference to patients' health and well-being. He really is. I mean,
Janice is just, she's an amazing woman. Through my PSNC journey, she's held my hand and, got me through things, and she's always supportive. And, I was so grateful to be working side by side. Hi, Janice. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, we both have a lot of love and respect for Janice. What a great way to encourage pharmacists to want to work in community pharmacy, delivering clinical service. Janice, that's such an important point, because we've seen so many pharmacists wanting to leave community pharmacy, right? And, we want to encourage them to really think outside the box, utilize their skills in a new way and an innovative way that actually is fulfilling for them, and, and makes them love community pharmacy again, right?
So, this is a national problem where pharmacists are getting into other sectors and away from community pharmacy. And it's because one of the key thing is that funding isn't there.
Yeah.
And we as a community pharmacist owner, as a contractor, it's very difficult for me to think about the money we get for delivering NHS services and needing the manpower and the workforce to deliver those services, but the payment isn't covering that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that goes against it. So the kind of the salaries and things aren't as, it's good in community pharmacy, but that's discouraging a lot of people because they can't see the prospects. The second thing is we're so focused for the dispensary rather than looking at focusing at what the community wants and delivering things for the community. And again, going through the pandemic and changing how we practice has changed the focus around where we now focus very much on the community. And, the dispensing and all that becomes a side practice, which is just happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. But without community pharmacist owners, the practice owners, changing what they're delivering in their clinics, in their consultation rooms, the younger generation pharmacists, why would they come in?
Yeah.
If we don't change that. So we have a responsibility as community pharmacy practice owners to make it a clinical practice, to encourage the younger pharmacists to say, there is a clinical career here, you're a prescriber, you can actually deliver private services through this practice while talking to the community. And hopefully, if we do this properly as pharmacists and collect the right data and showcase it, that's something that I've been trying to do with a cohort of pharmacists, and with the mastermind that we did, is to put them on a system where we can collect this data.
Yeah.
Without data, we have no evidence. We know it works. We know it's really good. The patients know it's really good, but we need numbers, data to show it's real.
Yeah.
And we can only do that if we're united in sharing that data with each other.
Yeah.
And then publicly saying, someone came in, this is the positive outcome, that we got as community pharmacist prescribers. And again, I'm going to voice it out again. Everyone who's not a prescriber, please go on GPAC website, find an accredited course and enroll today.
Yeah. If
you need help, I will help and manage, what I can for you and direct you. So just message me on LinkedIn. Yeah,
you know what? You're encouraging me to the IP course now.
Well, you're the career change coach. So this time I changed your career, isn't it?
Gillian's actually asked a really good question. Thank you so much, Gillian. She said, have you been commissioned by the CCG to provide funded NHS services?
So a great thing that happened in Kent in kind of a way where we pushed boundaries, and we were the first IP cohort to be commissioned to deliver stop smoking services for the local NHS trust. And while I was vice chair in an acting chair in Kent LPC, Shilpa, who's the CEO, I phoned the trust first and said, look, I've got so many people, the pandemic had just started and we'd gone into lockdown. Suddenly a lot of people were saying, oh, I want to quit smoking because, of COVID. And, there was a big panic.
Yeah.
All the PGDs had stopped and delivery of services had stopped. I rang the trust and I said, look, I've got so many of my community concerned. Do you mind if I continue my stop smoking service, but doing it through telephone? And they said, yes, if you can help. Then me and Shilpa spoke and we said, this is something as prescribers in community pharmacy practice that we can actually deliver remotely.
Yeah.
And from that, we got a PSD service funded for community pharmacy practice as prescribers. So there were, I believe there were 10 of us that were delivering remote consultations and then writing prescriptions, for Champix and kind of supporting people through that, sending a PSD to the patient's local community pharmacy to then pick up the item. Yeah, and this showed how quickly community pharmacy practice can react and change things overnight. Second thing is that we had prescribers ready to deliver this, and we delivered it really well. And there's an evaluation that's happening in Kent that's been funded by HEE, and hopefully that will come out soon so everyone can see the great work that Kent LPC put together and delivered.
Yay! Fantastic. Fingers crossed that comes out soon. I mean, that sounds amazing. And, I guess, Julian, that is the way in which we've got to showcase our skills. And, you know, what you did there was, okay, you had to act quickly, right? Because it was a pandemic. You had these patients that needed the support and you had to act quickly. And that was almost the impetus, right? But the key thing about it is you all came together and you said, we can deliver this. And, you know, you approached, you know, the payers essentially and said, we can do this. Allow us to do it.
And the thing is, again, going back to the listing, is that if we think about the pressures that community pharmacy were under, and if phone calls came, you know, the normal reaction because of the panic, and you know, unless you worked in community pharmacy, you would not realize the pressures. You know, we had 2 or 3 staff members break down crying. We've had a lot of the team members leave because there was that much pressure. So respect to all community pharmacy practice teams for what they did and what we've gone through and come to the other side. You know, we had to overnight just transform how we did things. And we literally had a full-time staff member answering the phone because there were so many concerned patients out there. The public were really concerned. But what the point I'm getting to is when in that pressure, when phone calls come in and say, I want to stop smoking, normal reaction is we're not doing it because there's so much going on. But listening to what they are saying, going back to the practice that I learned and the discipline I learned from prescribing was listening. So listening that they, look, I'm really concerned. I'm concerned for my health. I'm a healthcare provider. I need to make sure that I cover that concern. How do I do it? And that's where the transformation came in. And about the team working together, you know, Shilpa did a great job with the, you know, the innovation step that I approached her with and saying, let's do this. She did all the kind of the service spec and the funding side of it, where I looked at the clinical steps and doing that. We put together, you know, a meeting for prescribers, and it was working as a team step by step, and together we delivered it. And that's why it was a success, because we did it together, not just community pharmacy, but the trust, the NHS trust and the healthcare advisors working with us. So the healthcare advisors did remote behavioral support, where we did the clinical side of it and writing the prescriptions, sending it to community pharmacy. Community pharmacy then delivered or supplied, you know, the medication that's needed for that patient. It's a team effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not forgetting the patient having to go through the, you know, compliance and getting through and quitting. And we had really good, you know, quick successes.
You know, this is, you've just demonstrated how using your IP skills, you know, it can come round to it being funded and, you know, through the NHS. Yeah.
There's a big void. The void is access to health. And there's a lot of people being denied their health simply because, you know, and it's more about how the system works to the actual system, where things are being blocked out by certain things because people are concerned, and it could be, let's say, minor illness, because they can't get appointments in the GP and they want NHS services because that's, you know, part of what it is. They go to A&E, clog that up. When they come to community pharmacy, yes, we give the advice, but we haven't got the funding to then treat them. We then have to go to self-care and purchase stuff, which then is a broken down model, because if they go to the GP, they get an NHS funded service and treatment, NHS, they go to the hospital, you know, to A&E, whatever it is. But when they come to community pharmacy, it breaks down. You know, why? Because we're not considered the NHS family.
Yeah.
We are is a supply arm.
Yeah.
Yet we are being pushed as pharmacy first. Come to pharmacy. Yeah. And because the NHS is saying that, the public expect NHS services. And then it breaks down. But then that's where the frustration from the patients come in. Yeah? But then to be able to talk them through, you know, and giving them the advice. But, you know, me and you are advocates of turning conversations to consultations.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you turn it into a consultation and you're prescribing, you can say, look, this is how I can help you. Yeah. They see the benefit. So then they don't need to do that struggle next time. They simply either book an appointment or walk in if it's an urgent concern and say, can you help me? And they expect it. You've broken all the barriers. You've shown them a new way of doing things. They know they can get instant access to great healthcare with prescribed items.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads us on to the dermatology clinic setup training event that we're going to be running on Sunday, because this is,
I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited about Sunday. We've got Dr. George Moncrief to come down to have such a great leader in his industry, educator in his industry, to come and help our sector.
Yeah,
we're privileged. And if you haven't signed up, if anyone hasn't signed up, sign up now. And Cornwall, I hope you put a link right now for people to sign up, because this is a once in an event. Hopefully we'll do more, but something like this, because it's the first one, you need to get the same as the first delivery. And the efforts we've all played in creating it. You've done a great role in, pushing it forward in your aspect of your coaching and mentoring. Me, what I've done with my delivery, but Dr. Moncrief, educate us and to give us a baseline to start off with. And the journey doesn't stop there. Then will be doing, showing them how to do remote dermatology with a dermatologist.
Yeah, exactly.
I could go all night, so I'm going to just hand it back to you.
We've been talking for ages about, I really, really appreciate all of the, all of your knowledge that you've shared, and your honesty as well, Sunil, about, some of the challenges, but also how you've overcome them, and how you've really adapted your practice to make it work. And this is what I really want. If you're an IP pharmacist and you're watching this and you're thinking, I've got no idea how I'm going to create my own clinic, you need to come to a dermatology clinic setup training event, because we'll show you exactly how you can do this, right? You've got one of the best clinical trainers when it comes to dermatology, Dr. George Moncrief, who is, he is a specialist dermatology GP. He's been in the field for a number of years. He does lots of trainings on dermatology, and he's really passionate about supporting pharmacists to be able to deliver this in the community. We've talked about dermatology a lot, and we know how much of an important part of healthcare it is, because the data's there, right? The data's there. Over 50% of the public are going to experience a skin condition at some point in their lives, right? And where are they going to go? Most of us are going to go to a community pharmacy. Or if we don't know to go to a community pharmacy, we're going to be thinking, well, I need to see a specialist. How do I see a specialist? And by us bridging that gap, in the community pharmacy, being able to really transform someone's life when it comes to their skin is massive, right? You've seen it in your practice. It changes their confidence, same way that it changes their outlook of themselves, right? It changes their ability to do things in their lives. And that's really quite transformatory when you think about it, right? And that's the kind of, those are the kinds of services that we want to support IP pharmacists to be able to deliver. And, we've laid out a really detailed training that's going to show you exactly how you go through the process of setting up your clinic, having those conversations, a critical part, right? Having those conversations and actually converting them into consultations. And how do you do that with ease, right? How do you do that in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm pushing this consultation onto a patient, because you and I know that that's not how it works at all, right? That's not how it feels when you're doing it, right? And we really want to be able to support you to deliver those dermatology services in the way that you want to. And so I am super, super excited about Sunday. I cannot wait to share it.
is going to be really good for the delegates that have come in. They're going to be in awe of Dr. George McGreef, and plus the add-ons they're going to get, which they think they're just coming for an educational piece. The success in a dermatology clinic is how you set things up, how you communicate with a GP, because that is important, because the GP at the end is the heart of that patient's health records. You need to communicate properly, use the right language, and do it in a way which makes you look professional. And again, these are things that we will be going through, because these are the mistakes that I've made, and now I know how to do it the right way. And for me, I don't want community pharmacists out there to make the mistakes that I've made. I want them to learn from the mistakes I've made and not do them. But do things in the gold standard, because we have now, and this is not just overnight. It's been years of putting this together. It's not overnight of just saying, here we go, let's set up it's years of seeing what's worked, what's not worked, what's respected with other healthcare professionals, what's not. You will still get GP practices not liking you doing this, because they're worried about their space. Suddenly in 2026, every pharmacist coming out as prescribers, they know we are here to fulfill a gap that at the moment they can't, because of their restraints and their lack of workforce. Instead of seeing us as a partnership, they're seeing us as a threat. But we have different spaces to look after, and we can look after them together for that single patient, which is our patient. Not your patient, not my patient, is our patient. And again, with the dermatology clinic setup that we're doing, learning the right ways of prescribing, learning the legal ways of doing things, learning the steps that should be there is one part of it. Education's one part, but the other part is the whole business mentorship. You cannot make something successful without understanding a commercial aspect to it. How do you ask someone to pay for something? Pharmacists shy from this word, money and profit, and when it comes to people's health, but everything is commercial. A GP practice is a business at the end of the day. So are we. And we need to be respected in the same way, because we are helping people's health and well-being and giving them positive outcomes.
So I am going to wrap it up for today, because we have been talking about so much, and I cannot thank every single one of you who has watched today. Thank you so much, because we've had some amazing comments coming through. Hibby said she's just started her IP certificate. Congratulations. Really, really excited for you. Lyrabs also said, really informative show. Thank you so much for creating this space. It's my pleasure. And it's our pleasure to share this. Janice, it can help with mental health issues that often sit alongside dermatology challenges. And that is such a key point, Janice. It really, skin conditions do affect our mental health, right?
I just want to pick up what Janice has said. And, it's a crucial thing to say about mental health. And there's a lot of things that are happening. And I've got friends who've had friends commit suicide, and we've had personal relations that have had that process happen. And in November, which is kind of a Men's Health Month, I've put together, which I wanted to do just before the lockdown came in, to start this whole thing, Man in Town, because we're in the town centre. And it's about, men coming in as a drop-in service to talk about anything about their health with me. And it's something that we will be showcasing later on in this year. And mental health, men don't tend to talk about their mental health. And we linked in, and how the hair loss stuff started was linking in with a barber, because that's where men tend to open up. It's when they're having, their hair cut, their beards trimmed, the grooming side of it. It's when, with barbers and hairdressers, they ask questions that we should be asking. How are you feeling? How's this? It's, listening to how a barber or hairdresser actually talks to people, we can learn a lot of consultation skills from them. And, that's something I would encourage. If you can do that for your community, whether it's male, female, choose something that you think you can bring a positive mental health outcome to someone, do that. But make sure you do it correctly and you do it in the right process and get a team together. So we've got, a personal trainer, a barber, and myself involved, so we can get a kind of a trio act going where it doesn't matter where it starts, we refer to each other.
That's amazing.
So we're going to be doing Monday's Man in Town in November.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, anyone watching this who might be in the Kent area, please do promote this in the Kent, in your area, and let people know that this support is there, basically, and that is such an amazing link up to do, Sunil, because you're working with so many other local businesses as well to support people, and I'm a big advocate of doing things holistically, and that's such a great way of being able to support people, in a much more rounded way, and using the opportunity to support people within your community, but in an innovative way.
But this is why we're called community pharmacy, and we shouldn't forget that we are the heart of the community. We're the only healthcare professional with doors open for the community, so we need to work with the community. Yeah.
So we're going to leave you with that. We need to work with the community. If there's one core message that you've taken away from today's show from Sunil, it is, working with your community, listening to your community, taking the time to listen to your community. And those are where you're going to find the seeds for developing your innovative IP-led clinic in your community. So I cannot wait for Sunday. If you are not signed up to our training, you are an IP pharmacist and you are really passionate about dermatology, you have got to sign up for our training on Sunday. We will see you there. And I'm going to say bye to you, Sunil. And thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you to every single one of you who is watching this. And if you're watching this on the replay, then do drop a little comment as well. And I will be sending a link to our training as well on the posts everywhere after we wrap up. So yes.
Thank you for everyone joining, and Cornwall, thank you very much, and continue what you're doing, because it's amazing what you're doing, and I love your work. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Sunil. That means a lot to me. So thank you so much, every single one of you who has watched today's live show. I hope that you have got so much inspiration from the conversation that I've had with Sunil today. And if you haven't, I don't know how you couldn't have. But if you do feel inspired by what Sunil said, and you are an IP pharmacist and you really are passionate about dermatology, then come and join us on Sunday. We will support you to develop your very own dermatology clinic in the community and really transform patients' lives in your community. And a real pleasure to have every single one of you guys here today. And let me know what your biggest takeaways are. And I will see you here next week again at 8 o'clock. See you then. Bye.